All right, now that we have a good idea on how to graph a linear function, a y equals mx plus b equation, we're just going to go the other way. So now what we're going to do is we're going to show you a graph, and from that graph we can look at key pieces of information and we can figure out the equation of that line. So let's get started with that. Just a quick reminder, every single linear equation can be written in slope-intercept form. So coincidentally enough, all you need is two things. You need to find a slope and a y-intercept. That's it. Once you find your slope, you can just replace it for m. And once you find the y-intercept, you can replace it for b. So all we're going to do is we're going to look at all of these graphs down here, and we're going to find a slope and a y-intercept, and then we've got ourselves the equation. Let's take a look at this first one. The easiest thing to find right away, if you're just looking at the graph, is going to be the y-intercept. So I'm looking at the y-axis, that up and down line, and I'm looking for where it crosses. And I look right here, and it crosses at 2. So I'm going to make a note of that. The y-intercept is a 2. Now from there, I can also help find the slope. So I'm using that point, and I'm going to go to a point to the right of it. Remember slope, we're looking from left to right. And we're looking at the rise over the run. So from here, we're going to go up by 5. And our run, if we go all the way across, our run is going to be 8. So in this case, our slope is going to be up 5 over 8, 5/8 for our slope. Now that we have those two things, we can write the equation for it. So here's our y equals mx plus b template. And all we have to do is take the slope and replace it for m, and take the y-intercept and replace it for b. So we have y equals 5 over 8x plus 2. And that's the equation of the line above. All you have to do is find the y-intercept, find the slope, replace them into the equation. Let's look at another one. We have a line that's going down from left to right, so we know that the slope is negative. The very first thing that I'm going to find is that y-intercept, and that's going to be right here. And that y-intercept is at -1. So again, I'll make a note of that. The y-intercept is a -1. Now from there, we have to determine the slope. So for the slope, I'm going to go down to this point here, and it's going to be going down by 9. So it goes down by 9, then it goes over by 4. So my slope in this case is -9/4, down 9 over 4. Once we have those two pieces of information, we can write the equation for it. So it'll just be y equals -9 over 4x minus 1. And that's your equation. Now some of you might be tempted to write -9 over 4x plus -1. Please don't write it that way. We don't like seeing two symbols next to each other like that. A plus and negative just makes it minus. So leave it as just -1 instead of plus -1. Next example over. We have another line that looks like it's going down from left to right, so we know the slope is going to be negative. Again, we're going to start by finding the y-intercept, and the y-intercept is right up here at 8. So let's make a note of that. The y-intercept is at a +8. And the slope, going from left to right, if we go to that point over here, it's going down by 1, so down 1, and over by 4. So your slope of that line is going to be -1/4 because it goes down 1 and over 4. Once we have those two pieces of information, let's go ahead and write the equation. Y equals -1/4x plus 8. So there's your y-intercept over here. There's your slope next to the x. 3 down, 3 to go. Again, we have another line that's going down. You all needed some work on negative slopes, so we're giving you a good dose of negative slopes right now. For this one, we're going to look at the y-intercept, and that y-intercept crosses at 3. So the y-intercept is at 3. From there, we can identify the slopes. So the next point over is going to be this one. So our slope is going to go down by 5 and over by 1. So your slope is going to be down 5 and over 1, which if you take negative 5 divided by 1, it just becomes negative 5. So that's the slope that we're going to use. Some of you are just leaving your slope as this, as a fraction like that, but remember, if it's over 1, just simplify it so it looks like that. Now that we have those two pieces of information, we can write out the final equation. It'll be y equals negative 5x plus 3. So it had a y-intercept of 3 and a slope of negative 5. Next one over. First thing we're going to identify is the y-intercept. And here's my y-intercept right down here, down at negative 7. So my y-intercept is at negative 7. Now the slope, as you go from left to right, let's just pick the next point over, it goes up by 1 and over by 1. So our slope in this case is up 1 over 1. But again, 1 divided by 1, we're not going to write it like that. It's just 1. So if we write this as an equation, we would have y equals, plug in your slope, that's a 1x, and your y-intercept we said was negative 7. Now we actually probably wouldn't write it this way either, because if you have 1x, it's just x. So we would prefer you write it as y equals x minus 7. So that would be the final correct way of writing that one. You see x and it's implied that it's just 1x. So even though you can't see the 1, it is there. And the last one that we're going to do together, we're going to start with the y-intercept, and that y-intercept is going to be up there at 4. And as you go from left to right, let's go ahead and pick the next point up to the right. It's going up by 2 and over by 1. So in this case, your slope is going up by 2 over by 1. And again, if you reduce 2 over 1, it just equals 2. So our final equation will be y equals 2x plus 4. And hopefully now you're getting a pretty good idea of how to graph these. Now you're going to try some on your own. There's 9 of them to do on your own. Once again, you're going to need the password for this week. And the password for this assignment is going to be bougie. B-O-U-J-E-E. Bougie. There's actually a couple different ways you can spell that are correct. It comes from the French word bourgeoisie, which way back in olden times meant like the middle class, but nowadays it kind of means like, oh, you fancy. So you maybe heard that song. But anyways, go ahead and try the next 9 on your own. Submit those equations to Schoology and see how you do. Hopefully you do well, and hopefully you have a good rest of the week. Bye, everyone.